All right. Well, as I mentioned, I'm here about an hour from Bryce National Park. We're almost 10,000 feet and hoping that nothing goes wrong during this live recording. It's, it's the outdoors, so we just never know what we're going to get. But I'm excited to talk to you today about procrastination. I'm going to lead with one thought that's been on my mind. Two authors I read a lot, Stephen Pressfield and James Clear. Stephen Pressfield wrote The War of Art. James Clear wrote Atomic Habits. And they both make this comment, basically, that professionals stick to the schedule and amateurs let life get in the way. And Pressfield in particular talks about making sure that you turn pro. We go from being an amateur, sort of dabbling and thinking about writing or thinking about doing our creative work, to taking it seriously. And that's part of the reason why I am here in the wilderness still teaching today. I'm a professional, right? So I wanted to be here no matter what. Also, I just have to say that that's one of the beauties of doing this kind of work is I have the flexibility to do my work anywhere I want. I can write in the woods. I can teach from anywhere that I've got a Wi-Fi signal these days. So it's a great life we have, mixing a little bit of work and pleasure, but still doing the work. I could say, oh, I'm on vacation. I'll just cancel this week. But this was on the schedule, so it seemed appropriate to be here. So with that said, let's shift in a little bit more to procrastination, because guys, this is something we all struggle with. I also, as I mentioned, Stephen Pressfield, he uses this analogy of fighting the dragon. And he indicates that resistance is a battle that we will have to fight, this dragon, every single day of our lives. And but the key is, once you've finished a project, you've finished a book, you've finished anything, that beast will never have the same power over you. So it's incredibly important to finish your first project. Take it, even if it's the first short story, take it all the way to the point where you said, this is done. Now, will it ever be done in your mind? Probably not. But there's another tip, side note, to finish it anyway. At some point, you have to call the darn thing done, because if you don't, then you'll never be free to make new things. And I guarantee there is more than one story in you. Or if maybe you have one project that you need to do and it's only one story, that's completely fine. Nobody has to become a professional writer. But I'm sure there are other things you want to do. Spending time with your grandkids, or painting, or making music, or whatever it is that your art is. So don't let perfectionism stop you from finishing a project, because it'll stop you from making more wonderful art. So productive procrastination. This is a picture of me vacuuming the house with my vintage vacuum and heels. Does anybody else's house get really clean when you're avoiding something? Yeah. If I really need to sit down and write or work on something that is important and that has high stakes for me, well, I might find a whole lot of but firsts. And we'll talk about but firsts in a moment. But a client of mine coined this term, or I don't know where she got it, but she talks about productive procrastination. We get a lot done when we're avoiding something else. I've had students say, oh, when I'm writing, I should be cleaning my house. When I'm cleaning my house, I should be writing, or genealogy, or whatever it is your thing is. So if you find yourself in that mode, I give you that term, productive procrastination, partly because having a name for it is half the battle, knowing what's going on there. So as I mentioned, beware the but firsts. Have you ever sat down to do a project, especially a new project, and thought, okay, I can do this, but first I need to install this app on my phone. But first, then I need to reinstall the software on my phone. Or but first I need to, and before you know it, you've done 10 but firsts and not the actual thing. Now, in the very first phases, maybe you'll have a day of but firsts to get your equipment in order, to get ready at your desk so that you can physically work. But don't drag it on and don't overcomplicate it. Grab a notebook or whatever you need and go out in the woods and write. Free write for 20 minutes. That's one of the reasons why in class I like to get students free writing with a time clock and with all distractions off as quickly as humanly possible, because it eliminates all the but firsts and it shows you that you don't need a lot of fancy stuff and you don't need a lot of research in particular to get writing. So yeah, let's talk about research for a minute. Beware the lure of research. This is a picture of a rabbit hole, my friends. I know the rabbit hole so well in research. It's fun. We love research and it's important for our stories. But again, this is advice from Pressfield. Don't do your research during prime writing hours, because research can just become another form of productive procrastination. And especially if you're doing family history research, it's so easy to take all of the rabbit holes. And at some point, you have to just quit doing the research. I also loved this idea that I got from Jenny Lund. She works for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. She's a professional historian. She talks about doing your primary research, getting immersed in it for a little while, but then sit down to write without any of it in front of you. Just write a paragraph or write a page or write a chapter from memory without referring to any of it in your own words. And I thought that was kind of brilliant, actually, because it's really easy, especially in writing true life stories, to get caught up in the facts, facts. It's okay to give placeholders and just let your fingers fly and come back and fact check later. It's fine if you want to take a minute and go onto Google and look up a date or something, but just be aware. You might not come up for air for another 3 hours and not have your writing done. So beware the research rabbit hole. And beware perfectionism. This picture right now, is this my house? No, it is not. My house is not that perfect. I do have some perfectionism tendencies, but not entirely. You may see some typos in my articles because we don't have a big staff here. And at some point we are on a schedule and we publish whether it is 100% perfect or not. So I hope you will forgive me, but we're creating here and we're creating fast because we know that what we do matters. At least we like to think so. So don't wait until your house looks like this, and don't wait until your project is perfect, because it never will be. Let it go out in the world imperfect anyway. So this is one of my sort of pet topics, the commitment formula. And the reason why this matters is that we all break commitments. We're human. And especially if you're maybe an optimist or have big ideas or you're a creative person, maybe you make big commitments and then you scramble to meet them. I can relate to that one. So I make a commitment and then I break it. What do I do? What I want to do and what my natural tendency to do is to hide, avoid someone, and just let it get really awkward because I made a commitment and then I didn't follow through and now I just want to avoid them. Don't do that. I've done it, and there is a much better way. And I could give you a dozen anecdotes for this. You'll think of a quick one. I don't know. But all you have to do usually when you break a commitment is be in communication. As much as I would like to hide and avoid someone, if I pick up the phone and ring that person and say, hey, I know I said I was going to meet this by this Friday, or we were going to do this thing, or whatever it was, but this is what's going on in my life. Maybe my only excuse is that I procrastinated and I am kicking it into gear and I promise I'm going to do better. But at least calling makes them not speculate that you don't like them or you're avoiding them because it's weird or whatever. The longer you wait, I promise you, the weirder it will get. Every time I realize that I'm in that mode and I'm avoiding someone and I just pick up the call, it clears the air and I feel like the burden is lifted. So the first step is simply to acknowledge the broken commitment. Acknowledge it to the other person, or if you made the commitment to yourself, acknowledge it to yourself. I said I was going to write and I didn't. So here we are. What are we going to do about it? The next step is to make it right. Acknowledging a commitment and then flaking out the very next minute doesn't exactly do any good. So we have to make it right. And this picture is a picture of I'm sorry flowers. If you wondered why there's a gift on the commitment formula, I'm a fan of I'm sorry flowers or chocolates or doing something nice for someone, or the very best gift you can give someone is simply to meet the commitment. But sometimes, sometimes I'm sorry flowers are in order. So acknowledge it, make it right, recommit. Okay, I broke the commitment. I've acknowledged it. I've done something to make amends. Now I'm recommitting. I'm going to follow through. And then, guys, all we have to do is that simple step of following through. Oh, and then repeat the cycle the next time you break it, because you're human and you probably will break a commitment again. Keep doing it as many times as it takes. That's what it takes, as many times as it takes. Fight the dragon every dang day of your life. Okay, so that's the commitment formula. I was taught this years ago in a workshop, and it struck me, and it seems important. And not only is it a handy little formula, I actually live by it. I actually will go through the steps in my mind when I've made a broken commitment, and rather than shrinking in shame, I just put my big girl shoes on and go out in the world and fix it. So, and a few other thoughts about how to overcome resistance. So now I want to talk about the power of habits, because there's been a lot of research and some really interesting writers the last few years talking about how willpower, frankly, just doesn't work. Usually when we are falling short of our potential, it's because of the environment that we are in. It's because we haven't created a habit. So the easiest way to be the kind of person that we want to do is by building a series of small habits, stacking them on top of each other. And so here are a few quick tips about creating good habits, and in particular, a writing habit. First of all, create a showing up routine. This is the idea of, if you need to go to the gym, the ritual each day isn't going to the gym and working out. It's all I have to do is put my workout shoes on. This is a classic example, but I've been following it this summer. I put my walking shoes on in the morning. Once my walking shoes are on, I'm out the door. It's not that hard to go for a quick walk. But if I open up my phone and I sit down on the couch, it's all over. So some of you may have heard before this quote, and I wish I could remember who gave me this wonderful quote, but it goes something like, if I can just make it to the computer and get the file open, I'll be fine. So whatever you have to do, if your showing up routine each day is opening the file, it's a tiny, tiny habit, but open the file, you'll probably be fine, because that means you've run the gauntlet of all of the other notifications and distractions that might keep you from your wonderful work. So another thing, this is a side note, kind of related to a showing up routine, but I find that if the night before I decide what I want to work on the next day, so I'm working on a book and I intentionally think in my mind, tomorrow I'm going to write the vignette about the day that Heidi lost her cat. And then two things happen. One is that I believe the subconscious works on it while you're asleep, and you may wake up to better inspiration than you maybe could have imagined. The other thing that happens is that you overcome the resistance of not knowing where to start. So, and it's maybe not as hard to think about what you want to write. And once you've decided that, it's not as hard to start writing. So that's breaking a habit down into its teeny tiniest component. And then make it as easy as possible, make it as enjoyable as possible. I like to write in nature when I can. I like to take the computer outside when I can. And making it easy is the best advice I have for making it easy is to write vignettes. We've talked about vignettes before, but write short little stories. Do not under any circumstances, sit down to write a book, sit down to write a page, sit down to write one question prompt. That's the biggest reason why I do so many question prompts, is because it makes it easy, because the more specific, the better, by the way. I'll do a side note, a tangent on that. Steve Rockwood, who is the CEO of Family Search, gave us this wonderful example of the power of asking specific questions. He said, if you're at work and you come in for the weekend and you bump into a coworker and you say, hey, how are you? What will they say? Fine. Right. You'll get a very generic, simple answer that doesn't give you anything interesting. But if you ask, hey, how was your weekend? Did you do anything fun? That's a specific question, and it elicits a specific story, and it's more interesting. It's easier for everybody. So if you want to make your writing easier in terms of your life story or interviewing somebody else, ask specific questions. Oh, here's another thing. Track progress. The reason I put a Fitbit on here, I've got my little Fitbit on my hand, and it's amazing when it's tracking my 10,000 steps, how often I get 10,000 steps. How often I'll go, oh, I'm at 8,000. All I have to do is 2 more thousand. So I'll go out for a walk before bed. Tracking is powerful. So one of the ways that I track my progress is I actually have a spreadsheet. If I'm working on a first draft of a book, I have a spreadsheet that tracks word count. And every day that I work on it, I will put the word count in and see how many words did I write today and what's the word count toward my goal where I think that the end project is going to end up. Because I just like data. I like seeing that I'm making some progress in this big, massive thing. Also, did you know that in Microsoft Word, you can look down at the bottom, at least in my version, on the bottom left-hand corner of the page and see the word count each day? So I like to note, hey, I got 500 words done today. Some of you remember a couple weeks ago, I mentioned that if you can write 500 words a day, you can finish a book in 3 months. So, or if that's about a 50,000 word book. If you're going to write a 100,000 word book, write 1,000 words a day. It's not that hard. We're about at 10:20 anyway, so I'll give a couple more quick tips. One is give yourself a deadline. Deadlines work. So that's one of the reasons why writing groups and classes are effective, because you get homework and you get deadlines. So that's one of the reasons why Rachel and I are thinking about how to help some of you in terms of giving some regular accountability with a writing group or with project deadlines. A deadline that I've given myself, this is one way I've been doing it recently, is I have a client, I've mentioned Heidi, and I go to her house every single Tuesday. And I know that I need to have some word count done. I need to have something to share with her every single week. Now, is it the absolute most efficient thing in the middle of my writing to go and spend time with her every single week? No, it's not. But there are two reasons I do that. One is I adore her, and during the pandemic, a woman in her mid-80s doesn't get out much, and it's wonderful time we spend. But the other reason is it gives me a deadline every week, and I am certain I'm getting a lot more done and a lot faster because I have that deadline. This class for me each week is a deadline to create something each and every week. So I would encourage you to think about some level of accountability. Maybe we're thinking about the holidays coming up. So if the holidays are coming up and you want to share a story with your loved ones, that's a deadline. If you have a family reunion coming up at some point and you want to share some stories, that's a deadline. Maybe you want to share a monthly story with your family. That's a deadline. Some families do holidays. At each holiday, they share one little vignette as like a gift to their family. So give yourself a deadline. Okay, did I beat that point? As I mentioned earlier, get some support. Designate when your writing time will be also. So your homework right now is to decide, my writing time will be blank. Every morning, once a week, 3 times a week, Sunday afternoons, in the evening after the kids are in bed. What is it? But give it a time when you can show up consistently and when your inspiration will know when and where to find you. Let's see, any other notes? Just remember another topic that I want to delve into more deeply on another day, but a thing worth doing is worth doing badly at first. It's okay to do your work badly at first. Do it and it will be fine in the end. Write a crummy first draft. Don't let perfectionism get in the way. Just sit down at your appointed time and write garbage if that's what it takes. It'll get better, I promise. Good luck with your procrastination, your resistance. Go fight that battle. Let me know how it's going.